Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome back. Today I have a message for you all around the dark gurus in our lives. So, as usual, I definitely want you guys joining in the conversation and drop some comments. I'm going to discuss what the hell dark gurus are in our lives and why we want to be super aware of them and why we cannot outrun them and how we can actually outgrow them. So today I'm going to share some kind of funny ways of thinking about the people in our lives that we most want to avoid and the people in our lives that how funny it is, and I'm going to give you guys some examples about how you can try and avoid certain people in your life. You know, you I want you guys to be thinking about right now as you're tuning into this message, you know, who are the people who trigger me the most in my life? Like maybe you've got one who fully stands out for you. And I really want you, throughout what I'm going to share with you guys today, I really want you to grab a pen actually and a piece of paper or on your phone or however you do it. But I'm going to give you some steps today that are going to really empower you, not only right now in your life, but anytime somebody who comes into your existence who triggers you, instead of trying to run away from them and avoid them. Believe me, I've tried that many times. It just doesn't work, and I'm going to explain why. Instead of that, you want to have the mindset of what I'm going to share with you guys today about outgrowing them so that you're no longer attracting those sort of triggering people into your life and basically having a much more empowered perspective as to why they're even showing up for you in your life, right? And it's going to help you to lean in to the challenging dynamics that you might have in your life instead of, trying to lean back and run away and avoid and then never actually grow and progress and then wonder why you keep attracting the same kind of person even though you're trying to avoid those kind of people. All right, so that's what we're going to be diving into. Like I said, as you're tuning in, please do drop me a comment. Please do let me know where in the world you're tuning in from, and if you do find value in today's message, I would so appreciate you sharing it with anybody in the world, whether that's personally or privately or publicly in any groups that you know other people could benefit from this. I would absolutely be super appreciative to you guys for doing that so that we can expand our conversation into the minds and hearts of other exceptional human beings just like yourselves. All right, so let's dive in. All right, so today's particular message is basically that you cannot outrun the dark gurus in your life. And in order to be free of them, you're going to have to outgrow them, right? And so let's firstly start with defining a dark guru. So a dark guru is somebody in your life who triggers the hell out of you, right? Like they are, and the reason why I call them a dark guru is because they're not pleasant, but they are definitely here to teach you something. And that's the kind of mindset that I want to impart with you guys so that you can be a really empowered human being in your life, because part of what I choose to be in terms of the person that I want to be, and I hope this resonates with you guys as well, is I wish to be somebody who, no matter who I'm with, no matter who I'm around, no matter what's going on, I stay firmly in who I am and my own empowerment. And I get to determine, how I feel, what I do, the actions that I take, and I don't get reactive and triggered by other people to the point that I just want to run away and avoid them, right? I want to be the kind of person who has the strength of character to be around any single human being in this world and not be affected by them in a way that would take me away from my own higher self, right? And so I wish this for you guys as well, and that's why I want this particular message. So like I said earlier, for those of you just tuning in order to get maximum value out of today's message and make sure that you aren't continuing to avoid the dark gurus in your life and instead are outgrowing them, I definitely want you to have in mind a particular person, the number one person in your life who triggers you maximally. All right, when I say triggers you, it makes you irrational irrational, makes you totally fall into like anger or resentment or fear or unworthiness, or all these emotions or states of being that you can be in that are taking you off your path to becoming your highest self, right? You don't feel good when you're around them. You feel small maybe, and maybe you shrink away, or maybe they make you really angry and you just don't feel like you can control yourself. Whatever it is, whatever the debilitating emotion or emotional state that they kind of trigger within you, that's your person. And what I will say as well, the longer this person has been in your life, the better, okay? But it might be somebody more new in your life, but I invite you to go deeper and way back into your past, as far back as you can go, where you find that person who's really at the seed, kind of the linchpin of the people that trigger you. But it doesn't really matter, just find the person. Okay, now we've defined what a dark guru is. We've identified who that person is in our lives, right? Is it a parental figure? Is it somebody in your family? Is it a friend? Is it a boss? Is it, an ex-partner? Whoever that person is, I want you to really find and identify who that is. And then basically, what we need to realize, and what will inspire you, I hope, to actually do these steps that I'm going to outline for you guys. So like I said, grab a pen for these steps. But basically, if you do not outgrow the current dark guru in your life, the person who triggers you the most, even if you are running away from them, avoiding them, discontinuing having them in your physical presence, a funny thing happens when you just try and avoid these kind of people. They end up taking different forms. So what you might find is maybe you've disconnected from that family member who just triggered the hell out of you, and you decided, you know what, I'm not having them in my life anymore, right? And so you just cut ties. Say that happens. And you think, done with that person. I don't want them in my life. They're horrible, whatever. And then what you might find is you might attract another person into your life who has the exact same triggers for you. Maybe it's a new boss that you have. Maybe it's a friend of a friend. Maybe it's a client that you have. Maybe it's your own child, whatever it is. But what you will find is the very form of the original dark guru will continue to shift forms in the face of other people until you've actually learnt the lessons and grown from what this dark guru is here to serve you with. All right, so this whole process involves and requires an ability to detach from who we think people should be or who we think we need them to be in order to feel okay. And we need to detach from that and show up in our lives, no matter what roles people are, playing in our lives. It doesn't matter if they're a parent and you expect that, well, my dad should be a very loving human being who always spends time with me, and he's not, and we get really caught up in that, and we miss all the value of what's being taught in that dynamic because we want them to be a light guru, right? We want them to be an all-loving guru when in fact they're an all-challenging guru, right? So you need to lose your attachment to the roles that people play in order to, it's a requirement in order for you to grow past this and actually get the lesson, right? You're getting caught up in your shoulds and your fantasies of reality instead of transcending them. So that's the first thing I just want to mention with this. And basically, I also want to put a caveat here. A lot of us have these dark gurus in our lives, these people who trigger us maximally, and we just want to avoid and run away from them. And what we tend to do, part of human nature, is to find different avenues in which our victim story can be enabled by other people, right? So you might have this person, this horrible person in your life. You don't want to grow. You don't want to see the lessons. You're not even thinking like that. You're just judging the hell out of them, and you just want them out, and you just never want to have to deal with them ever again. And then what we tend to do is find people in our lives that we can express our one side of the story to and get that validation and that victim enablement, which is basically what it is. And we do need an element of validation. Firstly, I'd say to come from within, right? Validate our own emotional experience, but then become the adult in the dynamic and choose to do something about it, choose to look at it from different perspectives, choose to take the lessons, choose to grow rather than staying stuck. And we also, it's really powerful for our relationship dynamics and our depth of connection with others to be able to go, you know, I'm going to share my experience. I'm going to be open and vulnerable with my true emotional experience and what's going on for me with somebody that I wish to develop a real depth of connection with in my life. And I'm going to invite them into that sphere, and you give them the opportunity to also come with you on that journey and validate your experience, right? But then you need to move past that. We can't just be these lonely islands cutting ourselves off from all the dark gurus who are around us, and, you know, expanding and you know, there's becoming more and more of them because we're not learning the lessons, and then just be on this little island with all of our little enablers, right, who keep us in this victim mentality, who keep us, even though it feels kind of warm and cushy and cozy to get validated for how good we are and bad this other dark guru is, but basically it keeps us really small and we can't expand off that little island, right? And so that little island is really the comfort zone that becomes very uncomfortable to the soul when there's that deeper part of you yearning for much, much more in your life, knowing that you're not living to your potential, right? So that's the pattern. So I really want you guys to think about who are the enablers in your life and thank them. Be grateful for their validation, but now just remember, you're no longer the child or the victim in this dynamic. You're the empowered adult, right? You're the empowered man or woman who chooses to grow beyond the dark guru's lessons, right? So that you can transcend them with empowerment rather than shy away from them in a corner, right? So once you've identified that step one, so identify the person, the dark guru, the person who's triggered you the most in your life. Even if you've done work on this person, I invite you to go back to this person because there's always another layer, you know, of the growth and the empowerment. But you've got to identify who is your biggest dark guru, and you might have a bunch of them, right? And so this could be the linchpin who could wipe all the others out because they own the same traits that are triggering you. Or it could be that you're going to have to do this process with a number of your dark gurus, right? So step one, identify who you're working with. Step two, I want you to list out 10 traits that this person owns that trigger you the most, right? And so when I first used this process on the dark guru in my life, basically I started listing out all the traits. So actually, I've got some of it here, right? So you get a piece of paper and a pen and do these steps. But basically some of mine were, they were closed-minded, they were judgmental, they had a bit of a superiority complex, they were a know-it-all, controlling, manipulative, passive-aggressive, choosing not to listen or understand, very black and white and very mismatching for all you NLP buffs out there. That was definitely some of their NLP meta programs. Okay, so once you've listed out your 10 traits that they own that trigger you the most, move on to the next step. Now, the next step is step 3 is to list out the 10 underlying messages that their interactions with you give you about yourself. All right, now this is a deep one. This is about really thinking about when I'm with this person and they're triggering me, or however they're engaging with me, like what underlying messages does this person give to me? So basically some of mine were, you're not good enough, right? You know nothing, you can't be trusted to guide your own life. You're worthless, right? You're spoiled. All these different things kind of came out, like all these underlying messages. And what I actually picked up was, very much connected to, because this person, particularly my dark guru in my life, has been with me throughout my entire existence. Basically, I could see the threads of these underlying messages that my interactions with them were giving me. And I could see what had played out with my own money mindset. I could see what had played out in terms of me directing my own course of my life, right? It was all really, I could see all of it, how much it had impacted me in my own existence and my own choices and decisions. And you might have this very same experience. This is one of the most powerful processes you can hope to go on, all right? So I hope you take this seriously, and I really want to hear your results with it. But that's just step 3. Now, step 4 is identifying and listing out the 10 major emotions that you experience when engaged with this person. All right, so some examples might be, you might feel very sad when you're with this person, very disconnected, very isolated, very self-loathing, right? All these sort of feelings and emotional states that are triggered when you're engaging with this person, or if it's a past person that you've been avoiding and you haven't seen them for a while, when you reflect back into your engagement and the dynamics between you, what were the emotions that kept coming up? Maybe it's anger, frustration, disappointment, feeling not seen. How are you feeling, right? So going into that list is step 4. Now, once you've done all of that work, and this is going to paint such a powerful, powerful picture for your own patterns of survival in your life. And then once you've done those first 4 steps, you go to step 5, which is, now, with all this information in front of me, seeing how this person impacts me, seeing how I see them and how I feel when I'm with them and what underlying messages I get from them and in our dynamic, now I want you to ask yourself the question, what lesson is this dark guru of mine here to teach me? Right? And so some of the stuff that came up for me when I've worked on my first dark guru, that's the one I'm sharing with you a bit more now. Basically, I could see that this person owned these different traits, right, than I did. So they were showing me what it was to be all of that empowerment, right? Like their superiority complex actually alerted me to how self-doubting I had been and how I could take a lesson, how I could take a leaf out of this dark guru's book in terms of, just owning more of my power and what's great about me, right? So it doesn't have to be the extreme unhealthy version of the superiority complex, right? An unhealthy version of that. But what can I learn because I'm so self-doubting, right? And so what can I do to close the gap into balance? This is what you're looking at, because the people who trigger us, and specifically the traits that they own that trigger us, are pointing us to the opposite, opposing part of the dichotomy that we're on. That's why they trigger us so much, right? That's why you might see, say, an empathic person, quote unquote, with a narcissist, quote unquote, right? Because they're opposite ends of the spectrum, opposite dichotomies, all right? And so they're attracted to one another that create kind of an unhealthy dynamic, but they're here to learn from one another. And the only way they stop being attracted to one another in this unhealthy dynamic is to balance themselves out with the opposite, but not to go to the opposite extreme like that, but to just take some of that power and get yourself back centered into balance. And basically this is what every dark guru in your life, every person who triggers you, is here to do. They are highlighting an aspect of yourself that is in a void, right? The opposite of the dichotomy that you're currently in. And your way out is to grow into balance, not become all of the horrible, unhealthy parts of those traits that they're highlighting on the opposite side of the spectrum, but to actually see what that is, see where you are, and see how you can navigate into more of a balanced position, right? So for that example that I just used, seeing and highlighting and being really triggered by this person's superiority complex alerted me to go, I can be so self-doubting on the opposite end of the spectrum. So what can I do, bringing us into the next step, is how could I own more of their power within myself? All right. And so whatever that is, and if you guys need any help or support with working this out, always reach out to me. That's what I'm here to help and support you guys with. But yeah, basically, I hope I gave you enough of an example to really get some value and get you thinking about what these traits are, and then seeing how you might be operating in the very direct opposite and out of balance, and how you need to own some more of their power, right? So that's step 6. How could I own more of their power? So for me, that would be, how do I own more of my value? So I'm not becoming the superiority complex, but I'm getting myself out of self-doubt, right? And so I'm going to own more of what is great about me. So that might be, I'm going to do a journaling process where every single day, and I did this for 2 years, by the way, I'm going to own one thing that I'm proud of myself about, right? And basically that's something that you can do, you can take action on, so that you can transcend your need to escape and avoid this dark guru, or be so reactive and disempowered by them, and instead transcend them. So you're no longer attracting people with these particular traits that are all here to wake you up until you learn the lesson, and not continue to play the victim and surround yourself with a bunch or a wall of enablers, because the dark gurus always get through, right? Now, once you've done that, you've got to get, again, your action steps for growth. What traits do I need to own within myself? How can I apply that actionably in my life? It's not about the theory, it's about how do you apply it, all right? Applied knowledge is what we're after. And, basically there's two versions of this as well. If this is a person in your life that you wish to continue to have in your life, but just transcend the dynamic that has been at play and recreate the dynamic into something healthy and fulfilling for the two of you, then there's a process that you can take, which is more of a release letter technique that I've mentioned with you guys many, many times, which basically leads you to having a very empowering and courageous difficult conversation with them in order to reframe the relationship dynamic. I work with many, many people with this because the closer the people are to you, the more likely it is that you want them to stay remaining in your life, but just transform the actual dynamic of the relationship to something that's super healthy and fulfilling. So that's one pathway. And then the other one is basically you just focus on fulfilling those voids, and you can definitely, just because you transcend a dark guru doesn't mean you have to have them in your life, right? So that's a different conversation. But what I'm hoping today's message instills within you is this question as to, am I running away and avoiding the growth that is necessary? Or am I really growing and focused on feeding all of that growth and that opportunity for growth within me from this dark guru to transcend them? And then I'm at choice point as to whether I want to, change and transform the dynamic so I can continue to have this person in my life in an empowered way, or you know what? I learned the lessons. Thank you very much, Dark Guru. You're now not holding any power over me, yet I choose not to have my energy directing in your way. But it's an empowered choice. You're not running away or avoiding, all right? So that's my message for you guys. You can probably tell I'm like really on fire, and I'm really going really fast today because I've got so much to squeeze in. As you guys know, if you watch my last Facebook Live, I'm starting the very first day of an amazing challenge that I'm doing for my health and my fitness. And so what's going on? So can't wait to share more of that journey with you guys as well. But I definitely want to check in with you guys before I head off. So please do drop me a comment. Let me know where you're tuning in from around the world. If you've got any questions or comments or words of wisdom that you want to share and co-create this space with me, I absolutely love when you guys do that. And like I said, please do share this message if it is of value to you. All right, I've got Mario in the house, and AJ, hello to you, and Marlon and Judy and Bill, yay, hello to you, much love as always, and Brian from New Jersey, great to have you back, my friend, and Barry, hi Vanessa from Canada, applied knowledge, hard to act out of fear sometimes, but you're absolutely right to face it and deal with it instead of continuing to run away and avoid the problem. I love it, Barry, so spot on, and I completely resonate with what you're sharing right now, because I just had a new layer of needing to deal with a very dark guru in my own life, and kind of the wall of my own illusion and self-deception dropped, and I was able to really own more of the reality of kind of a toxic dynamic that was going on. And I did a hell of a lot of work. I went through all the steps that I went through with you guys today. And set myself up to win, to have a conversation with this person, because I do want them to be somebody in my life. I value them, but I need to rewrite the toxicity of the dynamic, right? And with non-attachment to the outcome, but just as long as I know that I'm doing everything in my own power to shift that and trust myself and respect myself and honor myself and not subject myself to poor treatment or any of the rest of it, and to give this person an opportunity to actually come with me on that journey to transform it and heal from it, right? And move in a different direction. And I did all this work, and then I got a bit caught up in life, and then I actually started feeling kind of off a bit, and I had to reassess and recheck in with myself, and I noticed that I was avoiding having the difficult conversation again, right? And so anytime we avoid, it sends a message to ourselves that we're not trusting in ourselves, right? We're letting fear run the show. Like you said there, Barry, it is hard to act out of fear, but we have to have courage. We're not going to be zero fear, right? That's not going to happen. But what we can do is build our muscle of confidence, right? To do the work, to get the clarity, to give ourselves the understanding, to paint the picture as to what we do want and what we are not willing to stand for anymore, right? And basically with that clarity and that honoring of yourself, then you have to keep the momentum going and have the difficult conversation. And I'll be doing that very soon. So but yeah, just keep your finger on the pulse as to how you're feeling, and make sure that you are totally in alignment with being your healthiest self, operating with the highest possible character of who you would choose to be, that you would be totally proud to be in your everyday life, all right? And keep honoring yourself, and keep having the difficult conversations, and keep doing the growth work, and don't fall into the trap for a long-term enablement in your own victim story. You've got to transcend the dark guru. You cannot run away from them. All right. So that is my message for each and every one of you guys. I want to thank you guys so much for showing up live today with me. And if you are watching the recording, please do drop me some comments, any questions or words of wisdom or experiences you want to share. I'd absolutely love to engage with you guys. All right. That's it from me today. So my reminder, as usual, is to go out there and honor your authenticity, deepen your intimacy, and definitely to contribute your unique gifts with purpose. All right, that's it. So much love for each and every one of you guys, and I will see you very soon. Much love.